All right, so getting into SQL subcategories, these are sort of four main categories of functions or queries that we're going to be showing you. And the first one is DDL, Data Definition Language. It's designed and defined. It's really the way that how you build the initial blocks, so items that you're going to be playing with. And second is DML. This is a data manipulation language. You can, once the building blocks are set, they're not set in stone. You can break them apart. You can add certain things or take some of things out, really just modifying and changing what you build during the DDL phase of things. DCL, data control language. This you may not get to work a lot with sort of your personal projects because you have the master control over everything. But when you get into company, there's sort of sensitive information that's pertaining to only your department, maybe your client, maybe the certain people within your organizations. That's going to be really having to do with granting access to certain things and also revoking certain access if you don't want in certain cases. Last one, this is going to be where we're going to be spending about 90% of the time. DQL, data query language. This is when you search and retrieve. Very simple thing, but there are millions of ways of sort of going about and actually doing that. So DDL, what are some of the key functions that are going into this language? It's creating new tables, database, or other structures. Just like you can see on the right side, creating table name. This is, when you type certain things into it, this part is the function. So this is not one function, to be honest. It's really you're creating something and then you're labeling this as either view or table, in this case, table, and you're naming it employees. And within the table itself, if you look at within the parentheses, there's employee ID, which is going to be one column. And we're going to go through these data types later, but you're defining what the data types these are. This is integer in this case, meaning numbers. First name and last name, there's column 2 and column 3. These are just saying that these are characters that's going to be within 50 characters. You can also alter these and then also remove and drop these. So when you alter the table, sometimes it's alter table, sometimes it's replace table. It's a little bit different across different SQL languages I've shown you before, but essentially it lets you add columns or change certain things about your previous columns that you added and data, and just lets you alter and modify the existing structure. Last one is, the drop table. If you do just after creating all these things or maybe altering one or two things about the table, you do drop table employees, you'll be gone, just like that. So yeah, next one is data manipulation language. Add, change, removing data. You're going to be inserting maybe new rows of data. So that's literally just insert into, remember our table name employees. So you're inserting first name, this column right into this database, and also the values as well. In this case, Alice and Smith. Just like that, you can put those into it with the first name and the last name. And when you do update, you can actually set the last name to certain things that you want, changing existing data, and then also the first name. Oh, sorry. So right there. And the last one is delete employee. So it was there before. You see Johnson to Alice, or Alice Johnson in this case. And when you drop it, it just gets dropped. So Alice, well, it just drops when you do the delete from employees. Don't worry if you're not quite getting how it's being done and how the functions need to be used in the place. We are going to be going through all of these in practice to show you how to manipulate and actually use these functions. Third part is data control language. Is controlling access permission. Really, granting is giving something permission, and revoking is taking away permission. So it's these may not be as important, but we can go through it. But it's not really essential. But later on, when you get to it, in the languages that your company's using or platforms that your companies are using, in my case, is actually Snowflake, and some of the language looks a little bit different. So just to just good to keep in mind, but don't worry too much about this section of the lesson. Now, this is the focal point. Very important. Every block of these functions are basically foundation of SQL. Select is literally selecting what columns you're selecting. From is going to be where you're pulling the data from, whether that's a view or table from certain things. Where is going to be a condition where it actually asks you what are some conditions of what people who make $10,000, $15,000, or where paper has more than 500 pages. All these conditions are where. Order by is just going to be how you organize the data when the data actually comes out. So you can see this example on the right side. From select, you're selecting these three columns up there. From is where you're pulling the data from, which is employees, the table we sort of created through other functions. Don't worry about this part. We're going to be going through joins, but where is showing, location had to be from headquarters. It's a condition. Last one is order by last name. So with that, let's go into some basic knowledge around data type. The first one is going to be integer. So any number that is a whole number, not decimals. If it's 1.1, 1.2, something like that, it's just going to be integer. And this can be positive, negative, or even zero. Just no decimals, but also be a number. Like you're seeing example, 42 is 0, negative 7. They're all integer. Second one is, it's float. And this one actually can have decimal. Just to let you know, sometimes it's good to use float for certain data types. If you hard code into data as integer, there's no flexibility. But if you do float, it can take a lot more data because it can take, it can be even integer within float, but it can also be having decimals and being float. So it can be pi, 3.14159, or negative 27.5. Those are all the examples of float. So basically any number is pretty much float. And pretty common this one, when it's, string values, people say it means text. String means text in any cases. And this kind of goes across both not only SQL, but also coding language as well. So a piece of text that's sort of enclosed in any single code, that letters, numbers, punctuation, spaces, even spaces considered a string in this case. Just to let you know, it's not like all of a sudden it's string to something else and string. This entire block, it's considered string. So that can be number or any special letters and also characters that come with even dot or anything. So pretty much anything that's not number that you come across the board, it's majority of the time, good chance it's going to be string. Now, this is a tricky one. It's easy when you look at it as data time. It's really representing specific date and time. Sometimes it's really just the date only. Sometimes it's time only. But certain data set actually lets you have both date time in this case. So this is, when you play with it, we'll absolutely go through this. What are some of the watch outs when you play with date time? But just keep in mind, unlike string and integer and float, date time is more complicated, even though we think it's just, time is time. Because system doesn't know what this, what the time is set. Is it UTC, is PST, or some other, timeline, time zone? And how is it? What's the format? Is it going to be month, date, year, or is year, date, month? So it's really complicated when you actually start taking a look at it. Boolean, this is extremely straightforward. Unlike all the other elements or data types that can have, multiple million, zillion ways of having the data, integer, it could go from 0 to infinity or negative infinity, whatever it is. but Boolean just is a logical value that can only be true or false. That's it, true or false, and there's no other data type. So if there's anything in there in Boolean data type that actually has anything other than true or false, it could sometimes be it could sometimes trick you. Maybe someone created a data type that's a string and actually type in true and false, but then there's something else into it, then you immediately go, that's not a Boolean column. But it's really just for it to be true Boolean data type, it has to be a logical value that can only be true and false. So those are it for the data type, the basic data type that you're going to be sort of seeing and what we're going to be handling. And next one is SQL naming conventions. One thing I will just mention is the table names. It's the best practice, but it's not a must. So just want to let you know that there's flexibility into building these things. But for table names, let me show you first. It's better to use lowercase letters most of the time. And also, if some column labels are, multiple words like department name or, apartment name or employee name, just do not leave a space as just empty space. It's better to separate those with underscores. It's not like it's impossible. When you're creating a table, which we'll show later, you could actually wrap them in quotation marks, just make sure that it has space in it, but it's really better to use underscores. And use plural nouns. That's just a sort of better practice. And in terms of the field names, make sure to use lowercase letters as well. Same practice, separate the words with underscores. Use singular now in this case, and it has to be unique within the table.